After last week's Southern sweep, it's honours evens between the hemispheres in the big games this week. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. I decided to go with the Sharks jersey this week in honour of, another brilliant performance from South Africa. They really are a special team. We're going to go down through each of the games from the weekend and pick out some of the highlights and just very briefly talk about where I think, each of the teams sit after, another week of really entertaining tests between some of the top sides in the world. So we're going to start with, a bit of a dour affair. Ireland 22, Argentina 19. So Ireland, to start off, penalty, Crowley kicks to the corner, set up their maul, Kelleher breaks off that. They go through some phases and, we have a decent carry from Porter. Then Crowley steps and goes over to score, converts his own try, Ireland leading. And Ireland actually looked decent in the start of this one, but they didn't keep it going, beyond the first kind of 20 minutes or so. But they're still at it. They're on attack from the restart. Ball goes loose. Ringrose scoops it up. He's in behind and, gets caught, but it's recycled. Byrne then passes back inside to Hansen and he goes over to score and converts a miss, but Ireland still, with a decent lead. Henshaw then gets pinged for offside and Argentina pull one back, 3 points back from the tee. We then have another, TMO review and it's a croc roll by Finlay Bealham. It's yellow for him and it goes for an off-field review. That turned out to be a yellow, stay yellow in the end. For me, that was a 20-minute red card, and it was dangerous. We saw as well, it was Cummings, I think, for Scotland there before. He got pretty much exactly the same thing. So I don't know why Bealham got away with a yellow. For me, it should have been a red, but it was a yellow in the end. Then Albanos lands a penalty after that to make it 12-6. Crowley then drops back in the pocket, drop goal, makes it 15-6. Ireland then, they're offside. Albanos pops over another penalty, 15-9. And Argentina, after that good start from Ireland, they're just chipping away at that lead all the time. Then Ireland, feels like they're a bit stale, but they do find something. They run it from a line out. Henshaw on a good line, pops it to low. He goes close. Then McCarthy has the power to get over, driving down low. Converted by Crowley, 22 points to 9, but that was the height of, of it for Ireland. And we're still not even at half time at this stage. Argentina then, period of possession in the opening periods of the second half. And Juan Cruz Malia picks a lovely line in midfield, breaks the line, steps back Hansen, goes over to score. The conversion then makes it 22 points to 16. Ireland then conceding lots of penalties. McCarthy goes to the bin just for the number of penalties they're conceding. Albanos then slots the penalty to make it 22-19. Argentina then, they had a chance then to maybe tie it up, but they decide they want to go for the win, and they try that. Doesn't work out for them. They knock it on, and that's the game done. So Ireland, poor for really the second week in a row. And, Andy Farrell, he's hinting at not making as many changes as expected against Fiji. And for me, it feels like he's rewarding failure. Players didn't perform against New Zealand, so they got a chance to make amends, other than Bundy Aki, to make amends against Argentina. Didn't really cover themselves in glory in this one either, despite that good start. Some of them, I thought Crowley was definitely better. Certainly a step up from New Zealand, but, we have a squad. People bang on about how much depth we have, but it feels like to me, like, it almost feels like we've only got 23 players because Andy Farrell is only picking them. He's not picking any of the others. And it's about time those guys got a chance. And, that's what I want to see. I want to see the likes of Izuchuku making his debut for Ireland. I think he's going to be a sensation in that back row if they can get him on there and give him some decent minutes, and then just give the wider squad a go as well, like the likes give Calvin Nash a run, put Osborne in for a start, bring, if you want to give someone a bit of redemption, bring Frawley back and maybe stick him on the bench with Prendergast starting or something like that. Just use the players that are there. You got the likes of Prendergast's brother Keane is there as well, and there's lots of players there who can do it, but they need Andy Farrell to trust them, and it doesn't send a good message when he's basically saying, "Oh, we don't really have that many players to pick from." It's not a good look, especially when he's off for the Lions now. After the next 2 games, he's got 2 games left for Ireland, then he's off to the Lions, and then it's what's going to happen then. I wonder. Get very worried about Ireland, honestly, if you couldn't tell. But Argentina could have drawn that game. They went for the win in the end. Very brave decision for them. And, good to see them doing that as well. It would have been very historic if they got the win. And it'd be very hard to argue against them deserving it if they did get it as well. If they'd managed to get that final score. I don't think there's too many Irish people who'd be saying that, Ireland were unlucky or whatever. I think Argentina, they fell behind early on. They worked their way back into the game. They really put it up to Ireland as well, and they almost got themselves in a position to score there as well. And it now feels like it's only going to be a matter of time before they do get that first win in Dublin. So it's good to see them coming up. Not necessarily at the expense of my own team, but as I say all the time, I'm a rugby fan first, and I want to see teams like Argentina, in World Cups, they seem to be sensational. They had a really good rugby championship as well, and it feels like they're now being a competitive team all the time rather than kind of in fits and starts. So we want to see more of that. We want to see them right up there. They're in a tier 1 competition, and I feel like now that they're actually at the top table properly as well. Next time we have Scotland 59, Portugal 21. So Hurt over from close range in the opening minutes for Scotland. Then Storty offloads, but he offloads to Stafford McDowell and gives him a run in try. Scotland then driving a maul over, it collapses, so they get a penalty try. We have a nice line from Darcy Graham. He gets himself over to score to become the record try scorer for now for Scotland, because obviously he's got Van der Merwe. 2 of them are going to be vying, maybe swapping that record back and forth over the next little while. Then a nice interchange outside, and Bayliss goes over in the corner, and Scotland in control here, but then Portugal do muster a response. Bergic gets over from the back of a maul with a clock in the red just before half time. Then second half, then Baddy over to score from close range for Scotland. Portugal then absolutely destroys Scotland in the scrum, 5 metres out, right in the shadows of the post, and Marquez snipes over to score. Scotland then creates some space on the outside. Reid, finishes it well. Then he puts in a lovely step and shows good pace to go over for his second. We then have a nice fend from Storty as he gets over for Portugal's final score of the game. But then Dobie with the actual last score of the whole game, as he goes over, snipes over to score. So very comfortable win for Scotland. I'm not sure they're going to have learned too much from this game given the scoreline, but it's always good to give the wider squad a bit of a run out. And it feels like Scotland maybe could have done with England's fixture list this November, because it feels like Scotland are at that level where they want to play the top teams. I know they didn't kind of cover themselves in glory against South Africa, not being able to take any of the chances that created in that second half, but they need to keep doing it more and more. And I feel like that's what they need. They need top team after top team, not kind of a top team and then dipping down in the top team. Having said that, it's brilliant that they did play Portugal, and I praise them for that. That teams like Portugal, they need more tier 1 teams to step up and say, listen, we'll play you guys. And Portugal kept going despite the scoreline. Heads didn't drop, and that's always a good sign, because these guys, they're going to get the odd, big victory, but it's the long-term impact they're going to have, right? Because these are the guys, kind of similar to the way Italy are now. They're the guys who are going to inspire the next generation, who are going to come and lift Portugal to an even, higher level as well. So that's great to see. They produce some decent play. And, as I said, it's great to see them getting a game against a tier 1 side. And we need more of this outside of Rugby World Cups as well. We can't be leaving the likes of Portugal, Uruguay, Chile, etc., having to scrounge around for games in between World Cups, for real competition. So it's nice to see them getting a chance like this, and we need just more of it, I feel. Next time we have England 20, South Africa 29. So Marcus Smith, shapes for a drop goal, kind of dummies it, then breaks, goes out to the left. Defence caught on the hop. He feeds to Slade, and Slade puts Slide home over to score. Then Grant Williams snipes, shows that amazing speed that he has, evades a couple of defenders, scores under the post. That guy is so dangerous. We've seen it so many times in the URC. The guy is just lightning quick, and it's good to see him doing it for the box as well. Then Peter Steph Toy pinged at the breakdown. Smith gives England the lead from the tee. Then first, Van Poortvliet gets charged down close to his own line. Ball breaks to Smith. He tries to kick clear. He gets charged down as well. Ball bounces back over the try line, and Peter Steph Toy wins the race to score. And, I don't know what England were doing, because the forwards gave absolutely no, protection to either of the kickers there. It was just so easy for South Africa to block down the kicks. Some people saying, about, maybe, I think Etzebeth was the one that charged down Van Poortvliet, that he was offside or wherever. I didn't watch the whole game, so I'm not sure about that. But for me, you eliminate the chances of that by setting up properly for the box kick, making sure you have somebody there as well, kind of on the edge, to make sure that he has to come, a longer way around a player to get to the 9. They didn't do either very well, and basically just invited him to do it, whether he was, on the edge of offside or not. They were basically just begging to be charged down, from what I could see. Then Colby catches a cross kick, kind of side on, right? So he's kind of, rather than facing, like, he's 5 meters out, and rather than facing the try line, he's facing across the field. He's got Stewart coming charging over towards him. He steps away from the line. Stewart goes flying past him, and then he just goes in, has a walk in to score. Really, a nice step from Colby there. I think it might have been Austin Healy was saying it in the commentary, Stewart should have just smashed him, but I think Colby's feet just absolutely did him there. I'm sure Stewart was thinking about smashing him, but that footwork was just too good. Then Underhill goes from a ruck about 7 meters out, and he's able to stretch out and score. Good power there to get himself in that position. I think he had like, 2 of the 3 South African front rowers hanging off him when he went over as well. England now back in touch in the game. Then Diolande, a nice pass to Fassi, who puts Arendse away in the corner, but we come back because that pass from Fassi was actually forward out of the hands, and it's no try. It's one of these ones where, from a certain angle it looked okay, but then we saw kind of side on, absolutely definitely coming out of their hands forward. England then stuck into the South African defence on the try line on the right. Then they moved the ball to the left. Smith with a bouncing pass to Stewart, who put Slade over in the corner, but this one is also ruled out. Neck roll by Itoje. There was, I saw, like, there was whistling in the ground, which you kind of understand because you're in the crowd and you don't necessarily get to see exactly what's happening, right? You just see, oh, it looked like a good try. Why has it been ruled out, right? But people on comments on articles and stuff saying that the referees are ruining the game by giving stuff like that, like the neck roll. And it's like, what are they supposed to do? You're not supposed to neck roll someone, and he clearly did it. And it was caught on camera, so of course the try is going to be ruled out. But then South Africa then caught crossing as they tried to run the ball out of their own 22. Smith edges England front with a penalty. Then England off with the ruck just inside their own half. Pollard restores South Africa's lead. His kick actually hit the crossbar on its way over, so just about had the legs there. Then Dielende breaks the line. Pass out to Colby, who steps the defender, and then he just has that pace to beat the cover. Cover didn't even get near him as he went over in the corner for the winning try. So England, they come close in all three of the games, so they're not far off, but something you have to remember is, with a lot of teams, they can get to that stage where they're just below, just off that. But it doesn't mean that it's an eventuality that they will, start winning these types of games regularly. Teams can get up to there, and then that last few percent is the toughest to go. And, it's part of it is a mental thing. Part of it is just complete, execution all the way through the game to get that first win. It feels like with this kind of situation, you've almost got to create enough chances to win a game like this by 20 or 30 points. You're not necessarily going to take all of those points, and you're not going to win by that margin, but it might be enough to get you over the line. And England at the moment, it feels like they're creating enough chances to win, but not necessarily enough to win by that margin that it feels like they need against, these top teams who can execute better under pressure at the minute, at least. But we're still hearing calls for Borthwick to go, but you have to wonder, who's the replacement for that? And I'm not too sure about that in terms of where are England going to go with the coaching side of things. And it's kind of difficult to see, it's not, we'll talk about Wales a bit later, but it's not the same as the Wales situation where they look completely abject in every one. They've beaten Ireland this year, and they've gotten close to New Zealand. They should have beaten Australia. They didn't. And then, at times they came close in this game. It still felt like, South Africa had a little bit of a margin towards the end, but they're not a bad side. And, the problem, again, that I think England always have is that they have such a big pool of players, and those players, they're playing against each other, and they can look absolutely fantastic in the Premiership. And then you put them in white for England and they don't deliver. And then it's like, okay, well, we called for that guy to play. It didn't work. Let's get rid of him and let's call for the next guy. And then it's just, there's a big, long, line of players to try, whether it's in the back row or in the centres or wherever, right out in the wing. And you just keep churning through players. Whereas if you look at South Africa, they have that core of the team, right? And as they said, they're trying to build the two best teams in the world. And what they're doing is, instead of just churning through players, they're like, okay, we have stability in these areas. We're now going to bring in a couple of guys, get them in, bed them into the squad and see how they go. And then we know if we need to, we can call on them when we need them. And, they're kind of picking, they never really pick a second team, as it were. What they do is they pick, a section of the first team and then put these other guys in. And then the next time, then whoever from the first team hadn't played comes back in, and then they put other guys in as well. And then it's very hard to see, because the players are so good and they really do have genuine depth, that you look at it and that idea of, getting the two best teams in the world in one squad, you wouldn't really back against them achieving it. But, South Africa, once again, showing why they are the best team in the world. And they just have that ability to win. They have, they have so many strings to the bow as well. It's very hard for a team to, to really stand toe to toe with them, because if you're standing toe to toe with the forwards, then they can go out to the backs, and the likes of Colby and Aronsa can step around you. The likes of Dielendy, or whether it's Esther Hazen, can run through you, etc. You got Pollard with the amazing kicking. You got the likes of being able to bring on someone like Grant Williams, or bring in, sorry, he didn't come on, he was starting, but bring in somebody like Grant Williams, like, who has that pace, that snipe. They have so many different options at 9 and 10 as well. They really are a very difficult team to kind of plan to play against, and to then, once you're out on the field, then to cope with as well. So I've got nothing but admiration, honestly, for South Africa. And again, that's why I'm wearing my Sharks jersey, because I love them as a team. I love the fact that they're in the URC, and people who say that they don't belong in the URC, whether that's if that's anything other than tradition, you're absolutely wrong. They've made the URC such a much better league than it was before. Made it so competitive, and they've just everything. They're bringing in their fans, their players, their teams, etc. Like, really has made the URC so much better. But on to the next game. So France 30, New Zealand 29. Ramos, he nails a penalty from just inside his own half to open the scoring. Then we have Vai with a nice offload. Then a barnstorming run from Sabea, one-handed offload to Lakai, who gets over to score. Really well worked try there from them. France then punt the ball down the centre of the field. Will Jordan kind of watching it to see if it's going to run dead. Dupont comes steaming up to try and ground it. Like, Jordan's kind of standing over the ball, and Dupont comes in, hand between the legs, tries to dot it down. But Timo Check confirms Jordan had already dotted down first before that. But there were kind of shades of Rob Howley scoring that try in the Heineken Cup final all those years ago. Aldridge then picks the ball off the back of a retreating scrum. He's looking to offload to Dupont to set France on the counterattack, but Rygaard gets in that passing channel, and he's over the line before most people know where the ball has even gone. Barrett then, before that then, France then attacking close to the line. Burros, he straightens and has the power to force his way over to score. One of these games is kind of seesawing a bit. Barrett then lands a penalty to give New Zealand a 7-point lead. France then, 5-metre maul, just cuts straight through the New Zealand defence. Baudon, the score, converted from out wide by Ramos, and we're all square again. Ioane then offloads to absolutely no one. New Zealand on attack around about the halfway line. Ramos gets loose ball first. He kicks it on for Biel Baeri, and he just outpaces Sevu Reis and Leonard Brown to score. Ramos then, impeccable from the tee, converts. Before then, McKenzie pulls 3 points back for New Zealand with a penalty right in front. Ramos and McKenzie then trade another set of penalties. That gap yo-yoing between 4 and 7 points. McKenzie then makes a 1-point game from another one straight, straight in front, pretty straightforward penalty. Ramos then, with his easiest penalty of the night, brings us 30 for France. New Zealand now need a try to win it. McKenzie, again, really good off the tee. 1-point game, 5 minutes to go. But New Zealand could not find that final score. Game actually ends with New Zealand trying to run it out of their own 22. France swallowed them up, make it into a maul and make it unplayable, and that is the game. So France showing once again why they've been consistently in the top 4 sides in the world over the last few years. They have the flair and the pace, to take their chances, and then they had the steel then to deny New Zealand at the end there as well. New Zealand, they were looking for an unbeaten tour. It won't happen, but I think Scott Robertson, he's going to be happy with how it's gone so far. Just Italy left to play now. On to then the next game. So Italy 20, Georgia 17. Italy on attack a few meters out, looking to attack wide, but Ninjashvili intercepts, counters. He's doing really well, but then he's tackled and he gets up again and goes. Didn't release the ball, so it's a penalty. Italy go back to the corner, but Georgia survive. Italy then back down in the same corner about 15 minutes later, claim a line out, set up the maul. Vincent comes on an arc behind the maul and gets them within a few meters. Lamb then picks and goes. He drives over the try line, but he's facing the wrong way as he goes over and lands on his back. Verbatimo checked to see if he was able to ground it, but it was held up. Great defense from Georgia. First, they actually turned him as he went over the line and then preventing the grounding as well. Garbisi then finally gets Italy on the board with a penalty, but lots of pressure from Italy, but only 3 points to show for it in those kind of first 20 minutes or so. George then with some nice interplay, creates some space, good hands, and they're in behind, and Tabutsadze goes over to score. There was some lovely, basically, they went almost through the middle of the Italians, and they just had players passing it back and forth through them until they were over the line. Another penalty from Italy then makes a 1 point game. Then Matkava responds from the tee for Georgia, stretches that lead out a little bit. Ninjashvili then cuts right through the middle of Italy's entire team, and you have to watch this. You have to see how many players he beat. Players falling off tackles, players basically diving at fresh air because the guy just so evasive, right up the middle. Maybe I don't know how many tackles. It felt like it was 6 or 7, and he offloads to who was it? It was Lobhanitsa, right? And then he scores under the post. Italy then pounding away at the line. Georgia prevent the score. Italy trying to go wide, but Georgia were offside. So Tabutsadze, the try score, he goes to the bin, and it's a penalty try because there were basically 2 Italians out there, and if he hadn't have done that, they were definitely in for a try. Italy then go to the corner from a penalty during that yellow card period, and Fusco comes steamy on a great line and over to score. Then we have a nice kick in behind, and it looks like Ioane is going to score for Italy and basically cap off the victory for them. But Tabutsadze back on from the bin now, puts in a hell of a try-saving tackle, and the closest that Ioane got to grounding the ball was placing it down on the flag as he was going out into touch, but he was already in touch anyway. So brilliant tackle there. Italy then spend the bulk of the remaining time in Georgian territory and see out the win, but it was a hell of a close game. And it's brilliant to see this as well between these two. Such an important win for Italy, given how poor they were against Argentina as well. And, they must be sick of, being compared, to Georgia as well, because you can see from them, their ambition is looking up the rankings, trying to close down the teams above them. But there's always that Georgia, in the back of their minds as well, because they keep getting mentioned in the same breath, especially when Italy don't do too well in the Six Nations. But it just feels like Italy, they've got to be more consistent to avoid those kind of comparisons. But it's not a terrible thing either, because Georgia are definitely a team on the rise. They played some really good stuff in this one, moved the ball well. The whole, people need to get away from the idea of Georgia just having a great scrum. They've got some really exciting backs, and they know how to use them as well. Had a great chance to get a statement victory here, but they did lack that kind of game control in the final quarter to get themselves into positions to potentially win the game. But they're one of, I feel, a number of teams who they need more support and a proper pathway to Tier 1, kind of similar to Portugal, to Uruguay, Chile, even Japan, who were quote unquote Tier 1, even though they're not in a Tier 1 competition. But yeah, it's looking good from them. We want to see more of them as well in these kind of games. I remember Ireland used to send teams over to Georgia, every couple of years and stuff like that. Now it seems like we're sending teams down to South Africa again, or instead. But it would be nice, to see. If they could do that as well. Like, we've got the Lions tour coming up next year, so hopefully the likes of Georgia and other teams kind of in that bracket get to see some of the Northern Hemisphere teams coming to visit, even though it won't be like their first string players, but it's still it's going to be good for the game, I think, overall, and in those countries as well. Final game of the weekend then, Wales 20, Australia 52. So nice hands from Australia, spreading it across the front of the Welsh defence out wide. Wright has a man outside him, sells a dummy, steps back inside and through the defence and over to score. Just a little bit too easy, honestly, from them there. Then Rogers tries to offload to both of them. The ball goes loose. Oz pounce on it, and Frost, the big lock, he runs it in from about halfway, and not even a tackle on him. It was crazy. Australia then goes to the corner from penalty, set up the maul, and they just drive through the heart of the Welsh maul defence. Fessler is the score. Wales then finally, gets something, pounding away at the line. Wainwright gets over, kind of like he was kind of spinning as he caught the ball because he was kind of turned the wrong way, caught the ball, spins, kind of bumps a little bit off the post, and then gets over to score. A couple of penalties then from Anscombe, and Wales are actually back within a score. We then have a Timo check for a high tackle. It's head on head by Karevi on Morgan. Looked red initially when I saw it. It's a yellow, and it is later upgraded to 20-minute red. I think that was the right decision there. Unlike, as I spoke about earlier, the one for Beelum for Ireland, he definitely should have got a red as well. Oz then with 14 men, though, they managed to drive another maul over, and Fazler is the scorer again. He then goes off the back of yet another dominant maul to complete his hat-trick. Wales pick off, they're on attack, but they get picked off, and Wright intercepts and goes in from about 60 metres. Thomas then, from close range, goes over for Wales, but already it feels like a consolation score. Then Ikitau just kind of, he kind of breaking ankles with his stepping, The Welsh defence just ended up just being completely like rooted to the ground because they couldn't respond to the way he was stepping, and over he goes to score. Then McDermott breaks down the middle and sends Wright over for his hat-trick try, and 52 points for Australia. I know Wales have been bad recently, but that really is really tough for them to take. So Wales record 11th defeat in a row now, and you're looking at the next two games, like they got South Africa, and then they're opening up against, France and the Six Nations away as well. So not easy ones coming. As I said, South Africa looming on the horizon there, and you really wonder, where did they go from here? There's still plenty of people defending Gatland, and you can kind of understand that because of his first stint as Wales coach. But then you look at this stint and you think, what has he really done, honestly? I know he got them to the quarterfinal in the Rugby World Cup, and people are saying there's nobody else any better out there. We should stick with the coach. We should, see how things are going, give him time. But my question is, how many of the people who at the moment are backing Gatland and saying that, you shouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction and just get rid of the coach, were saying the same thing about Pivac, when he was handed out of the job? Because of a feeling that a lot of them were saying that Pivac should go when he was there, because it didn't feel like he had anywhere near the amount of support that Gatland had, even though he had a better record and seemed to be actually, the funny thing was, it felt to me like around the period where he got sacked was where it felt like he was turning the corner with Wales. and then he was gone, I think. But as I said, Gatland feels like a lot of it is from his first stint with Wales. There's still a lot of love there for him, and I can understand that. But again, I say it so many times. I would not want any of the brilliant Irish coaches over the last kind of 10 or 15 years to come back. The likes of Declan Kidney or Joe Schmidt or whoever, who brought great success to us. I still don't think them coming back. I'm even worried about Andy Farrell going away to the Lions and then coming back. I even feel like that's going to be a mistake for us too. When he comes back, I hope, fingers crossed, it's not. But even if Andy Farrell was to leave permanently, and then Ireland dive down the ranks, and in 4 years' time he's available again, I still wouldn't want him to come back. I always feel like it's a mistake to go back. It never seems to work out the second time around, and it feels like that's the way it is for Wales. And I feel as well for the Wales fans, because again, I'm a rugby fan, and I'm not the kind of fan that kind of gets his jollies from seeing the misery of other teams. Even teams like England, a lot of Irish fans do get kind of their jollies from watching England lose. I'm not one of those. Genuinely, I've been cheering for England all through November, because when it's November internationals, it's North versus South in my mind, and I want all of the Northern Hemisphere teams to do well. Even though a lot of the Southern Hemisphere teams, given that where I was living, and the fact that I've written before for an Australian website and stuff like that, I have a lot of affinity with those teams as well. Still, when it comes to the North South, at this time of the year, I cheer for those teams. When it's the Rugby Championship, it's different. Then I can pick the teams that I want to cheer for there. But let's talk about Australia, okay? Rugby Championship, they were very poor. 67 points or wherever it was they conceded against Argentina. Got absolutely brushed aside for the Bledisloe again. Looked overall very poor in that, finishing bottom of the table. And already you could hear some of the usual talking heads in Australian rugby saying, "Oh, Joe Schmidt, he's a Kiwi. What does he know about Australian rugby? And this is not the way you play, and blah blah blah." Okay, but Joe Schmidt, I'd say he's been pleased so far with the trip, up north. They're looking. They've got those 2 wins under belt now, and they're looking at those final 2 games against Scotland and a misfiring Ireland as well. And, whatever happens in those 2 games, even if Australia lose those 2 games, I feel like this, has been a successful tour for them, especially in kind of at the point where they are in the development, that they can afford to drop one or both of those games against Scotland and Ireland and still take a lot of positives out of this. And there's still a decent chance, honestly, that they could win both of them as well, because Ireland don't look on it at all, and Scotland, I think it's going to be close against Scotland as well. So it's about who executes well under pressure. And if they can do that against Scotland, then suddenly they have the chance to, of a sweep of the home nations as well, going in, against an Ireland team that, we don't know what they're going to look like by the time we get there. But for the first 2 rounds have looked very, very poor, very below the standards that they set themselves as well. But that is, week 3 of the November internationals. Again, I found them very entertaining, and it's nice to see all these teams coming together like this as well, and just seeing where teams kind of rank against each other as well. Because when it's kind of the tours and stuff, things are kind of isolated, but when you have the Southern Hemisphere coming up, they get to move around and play different teams, and you get kind of more of a read on where teams are against each other. There's no doubt in my mind, that if you're looking at hemisphere versus hemisphere, the southern hemisphere are still on top, and the northern hemisphere, they've got to be more consistent, and they've got to get some more kind of heavyweight teams as well, in terms of Ireland again. They went into this world number one, but definitely misfiring. France really the ones that are kind of carrying the torch for the northern hemisphere at the minute. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments.